Hi, on the Woodpecker today. I'm making some modifications on my CNC. Since the day we assembled my X Carve, I used it to do a lot of things. Sculpting weirdly shaped bowls, making some cuts that needed a lot of precision, and sculpting very complex things. But what I've done the most with it is signing my masterpieces. Now it's time for some tender loving care. First of all, the stock motor drivers are not very good. On the y-axis, since it has two motors, it's hard to accidentally bump the carriage. But on the x-axis, it's another story. This is the first thing I'm going to fix. Yes, these are the drivers that move everything. Not up to the task. I'll change them. I'm going to put 4 drivers like those ones, one on each motor. On those modules, I can choose the number of pulses I want and also the motor's currents. I choose a division by 16 instead of 8 for the original. I also select 2.8 amperes for the current instead of 2.5. And I'm even able to bump this again. While doing this, I'm going to use one of my own PCBs. So if I need another Arduino somewhere else, I'll have this one. Now I just need to switch the wires from one controller to my new one. Here, the difference in size is quite obvious, from those small chips to those drivers. But I still have a lot of wires to hook up. But at least the end-stop connector doesn't need any changes. But for the other control lines, it's another story. I need to put those DuPont wires there. But I don't like the fact that they are all separated wires. So I'll glue them together with instant glue. Then I can hook up the other side of the wires in place. There are a lot of wires to screw in place. It's the reason why I use this plan I found on the net to make sure I don't forget any. Good. Nothing blew up in my face. And it's even working. I also plugged my Bluetooth receiver on my own board. It's easy because there's a special place for it. This is what my new setup looks like now. This is way better than before. Now I need to check if it's still calibrated. To do that, I use my longest ruler. I align it with its last line and send the command to move from that amount. Then I check if it's okay. If it's not, I modify the value. In my case, it's 80.33 pulses per millimeter. But I'm not done yet. I add a laser to my setup. Yes, a 15-watt laser. First of all, I need to cut some plywood for the mounting bracket. Now that I have the wood, I need to drill some holes for the laser. And chamfer them. Then I thread the laser casing. Since I want them to be straight, I use my drill press to guide the tap. After cutting the screw shorter, I can mark where the holes should be on the other piece of plywood and drill them. Now, I'm ready for the support itself. I begin by ripping a piece of scrap at 15 degrees and cut 2 small pieces. Then I glue both pieces at an angle of 14 degrees using my dovetail saddle square as a guide. When both pieces are in place, I gently put some weight on it. Yes, gently, because I don't want to mess up my angles. And I let the glue dry. When it's dry enough, I can cut the other two mating pieces. But before gluing them in place, I remove a bit of wood. This way, only one plywood will rub on the angle strips. Then it's time to lay the pieces in place and add a bit of glue. When they're perfectly in place, I can lay the other plywood piece on top. And just like last time, I put a bit of weight on it and wait. But not too long. I want to make sure that it's perfect. Since it is, I put back the weight and wait for the glue to dry. Then I mark where I want to add some screws. Finally, I can screw the laser on its base. And to try it, I just need to screw the mounting plate in front on the router's support and put the laser in place. With this setup, I can easily install and remove the laser rapidly. And to use my laser, I just need to flip the switch. If this hookup interests you, well, here's how it's wired. Originally, and it's still like that, the pulse width modulation line from the controller goes directly to the power supply. Then the output, which is now modulated in 24 volts, goes into a 24 volt relay. And it is this relay that starts and stops the palm router of the CNC. Then this same pulse goes to another contact of the switch, and it's this part of the switch that controls the power of the laser. So if the switch is at one position, it controls either the relay or the laser, but never both at the same time. And since the switch I've used has 3 contacts, I use the last one to light up some LEDs. Green for the laser and yellow for the spindle. And here's a quick demonstration of what I'm able to do now. Obviously, this doesn't go as fast as what you see, but it can go way faster than a standard carving. But there are more variables to consider. The faster the head is moving, the more power the laser has to spit. So I rather go slower and put less power to the laser. This way, I can run longer without heating up. But I'm not done yet. I love that I have tons of holes to hold up the piece that I'm working on. But I have one big problem. Several inserts, which came with the CNC itself, are either almost out of their socket or just not there anymore. So I'm going to replace them with those T-nuts that a friend sent me from France. Yes, it's pretty nice to have all those holes, but all the inserts are metric. And here, it's not easy to find those types of screws. It's the reason why, last summer, I came back from my European trip with all those screws in my luggage. But to change the insert, I must have access to the underside of the table. And when it's on its side, I have access. But first thing first, I need to clean all the dust that fell inside the holes. And even find the missing inserts. So after cleaning a little bit, I can remove the broken inserts. And there are a lot of them. This is only a few of them. But changing them for T-nuts, it's pretty easy. I put the nut inside the hole, and from the other side, I screw a bolt. But leaving this like that wouldn't last long. That's the reason why I drill 2 holes and screw 2 screws at each T-nut. And here's their new look now. In the end, I replaced the whole second row of inserts and some here and there. If I had more T-nuts, I would even have replaced more than that. If you buy an X Carve, I strongly suggest you put T-nuts instead of the inserts. Then I can put everything back in place. But I'm not done with my upgrades. I've also 3D printed some clips to hold the router wires in place. With those clips, I can fasten the wire that can go inside the wire chain, and they hold them in place pretty good. Yes, I got myself a 3D printer, and like everybody else, the first thing I printed was all those painters' pyramids. But the design of the X motor is less than perfect, because the chain can easily get cut on the motor. So I've also designed this cap. Now the chain can't get stuck on the motor, it just slides on top of the cover. But from far, my proudest addition is this 4th axis that I've made. And this will be the subject of more episodes of the Woodpecker.